Ever feel like your to-do list has taken over your life?
Yeah.
Or maybe you spent like weeks agonizing over finding the perfect apartment.
We've all been there.
Right. What if I told you there are like actual proven strategies to tackle these everyday dilemmas?
Yeah.
And get this, strategies with roots in the world of algorithms.
Algorithms. It sounds a little strange at first. It did to me anyway when I first heard about this. But it's really just about strategies to solve problems, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Algorithms to Live By explores. You know, this whole idea that these tools that we use to optimize computer code, they can actually offer, surprisingly insightful solutions to navigating just the messiness of human life.
Okay, so unpack this a little bit for me. So we're talking about using algorithms not just for like coding a website, but for like choosing between the new Thai place down the street and my usual pizza spot.
Exactly. Like, think about the classic problem of finding a new apartment.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right. We've all been there. Endless scrolling on these websites, open houses, trying to, the fear.
The fear of settling versus like missing out. The book dives into this. They call it the optimal stopping problem.
Okay.
And it introduces us to a strategy called the 37% rule.
All right. Break it down. What is this 37% magic? What is this?
So let's stick with the apartment hunting example.
Okay.
Imagine you're looking in a city with like hundreds of listings. This rule basically says dedicate the first 37% of your search time, so let's say that's about, like 11 days out of a month, to just exploring. Just see as many places as you can, even those that like don't initially wow you. It's more about like calibrating your expectation.
Okay.
And like really understanding what's out there.
So no impulsively signing a lease the first day because they have a working dishwasher and in-unit laundry.
Precisely. Once you hit that 37% mark, though, be ready. Be ready to pounce on the very next option that surpasses everything else you've seen.
Interesting.
So it's about balancing that gathering of information and avoiding that what-if paralysis.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That actually is incredibly helpful. It reminds me of this constant dilemma. Trying that funky new fusion restaurant down the street or sticking with my usual comfort food haven.
And that is where the explore-exploit algorithm comes in. It's all about this balance between the excitement of the new and then the comfort of the familiar.
Right.
The book talks about how, when you're younger, you have more time to recover from, like bad decisions, right?
Yeah.
So explore wildly. But as you get older, you kind of want to exploit the wisdom that you've gained from those experiences and maybe stick with what works well a little bit more.
That makes sense. In my 20s, like a bad meal was just a funny story to tell. But now it's like I have limited dinner outings in a week. Do not mess this up.
Right.
Speaking of things I don't want to mess up, let's talk about organization.
Oh, yeah.
Emails, to-do lists, my desk. It's a constant battle.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always losing.
You'd think perfect organization is the key. But the book actually delves into sorting algorithms, kind of how computers organize information. And it offers this fascinating twist. Sometimes a little bit of mess, can be more efficient.
Wait, are you saying that my overflowing inbox may actually be a highly efficient system?
Well, hear me out.
Okay.
In some scenarios, the time spent maintaining perfect order is actually less efficient than a quick scan through a messy system.
Huh.
Right? Think about, your spice rack, right?
Yeah.
If it's alphabetized versus if it's arranged by, how often you use certain spices.
Okay. That's actually making me rethink my entire spice drawer organization system, which is currently non-existent.
Right.
But I like this. So embracing a bit of strategic mess.
Right.
That's fascinating.
It is, yeah.
Now, this one is personal. Remember my chronic million-tab browser syndrome?
Oh, yeah.
The book calls this a caching problem.
It is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because our brains, much like computers, have limited processing power and memory, right? And so the least recently used caching algorithm, what that essentially means is we tend to prioritize information that we've used recently because it's more likely to be relevant again.
So that's why I can recall, what my boss asked me 5 minutes ago, but not what I had for breakfast this morning.
Exactly. So just like a computer, clearing its cache for, improved performance, sometimes intentionally kind of clearing our minds allows us to refocus on what's most relevant in that moment.
This is blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
But so far, it's all been about my decisions,
Right.
my choices.
Yeah.
What happens when my choices involve other people, each with their own motivations?
Right.
Like negotiating a project deadline at work or even deciding whose turn it is to do the dishes.
This is where game theory comes into play, and the book highlights this fascinating concept called the Nash equilibrium. And it essentially suggests that by understanding the incentives of others, we can actually make choices that lead to better outcomes for everyone involved. So
So it's a win-win.
it's a win-win.
Exactly.
So less about outsmarting the other person and more about finding a solution that works for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the sound of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a lot here. Is there anything else from algorithms to live by that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think, there's this trap that I think a lot of us fall into, and it's called overfitting.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically happens when we try to make a decision perfect by factoring in too much data,
Oh, yeah.
and it can
Oh,
backfire.
I do this all the time. Like
Yeah.
when I'm preparing to give a presentation and I overthink every single detail, every transition, every word, I end up with this like cluttered mess instead of a clear message. Precisely. Yeah. And it's about finding that sweet spot between, preparation and then just overthinking. And sometimes, keeping it simple is more effective.
This entire deep dive has been eye-opening. We've covered so much ground, from finding an apartment to organizing our lives, or maybe embracing a little bit of chaos, to understanding like the motivations of other people. We even talk about like how to avoid overthinking things. It's amazing to me how these principles apply to so many situations.
And that's the beauty of algorithms to live by, is that it just gives us this new lens, I think, to view our everyday decisions. It encourages us to kind of recognize patterns in our own lives and see how these seemingly complex computer science concepts can actually offer, like practical, applicable wisdom for just navigating the everyday.
So I guess the next time that I'm like, facing a decision, big or small, I should remember there might just be an algorithm for that.
There just might be.
I like it.